Hi guys, I'm Carly and welcome to Belle's Books. I hope you've all had a lovely bank holiday weekend. I'm here today to do a currently reading video. So I'm going to talk to you about the 3 books that I am currently reading. So first up, I have nearly finished Circe by Madeline Miller. I'm reading this for my book club and we're meeting in a couple of weeks, I think. So I've only got about 30 pages left on this. This is a retelling of the character of Circe. She appears in Homer's Odyssey and Ovid's Metamorphoses, neither of which I have read. I know nothing about them. So I said in my previous video that I was approaching this with fresh eyes. I knew nothing really about those tales other than she turned Odysseus's men to swine. So Madeline Miller takes the character of Circe and gives her her own story and her own reasoning and gives her power and intelligence, and you see the reason behind everything that happened in those Greek myths. So Circe as a character in this book is, first of all, she is the daughter of Helios, the sun god. She's turned out of her father's halls for being a witch, and she's exiled to an island where she practices and hones her craft. So there she meets Odysseus. He comes with his ship of men, and there's the famous incident of turning them all to swine. And in Homer's book, I think she is just forced to turn them back, but in this story it gives her a reason to turn them to swine, and that interaction with Odysseus is not as simple and straightforward as it's made out to be in Homer's book. So I really like this as a retelling. It gives the character a lot of her own power, and she comes across as a very fierce and intelligent woman. The first half of this book I found quite episodic, and in between each of those episodes I wasn't that drawn to going back to it and picking it up. But the second half of the book I found a bit more pacier. It moved along a bit quicker, and so I've been reading it non-stop. I've only got like 30 pages left, so I'm going to finish this today because I want to see how it turns out. But I'm really enjoying it. I would really recommend this. And yeah, I'd definitely give it a go, even if you have no knowledge of Greek myth or any of those stories. It's not difficult to read. It's beautifully written, and it's just a lovely, really enjoyable read. So I would definitely recommend that. Next up, I'm reading a poetry collection, No Matter the Wreckage by Sarah Kay. Now, I've said previously that I'm not that great with poetry. It has to be accessible for me to read poetry. So generally my favourite poets are Carol Ann Duffy and Jackie Kay, and people that I can read without it feeling like it's going over my head. I'm really enjoying this collection. Again, halfway through on this, and the poems are just beautiful, and they read more like little stories, so it's less, I'm not thinking about the fact that, oh, what's the rhythm in this, what's the form of this. I'm just reading them as they are and appreciating each poem for the story of the poem. And it's only when I really concentrate on like the rhyme and the rhythm of it that I go, oh, actually, yeah, there's some really beautiful form to this poem. But as they stand, I find them just beautifully written little tales. A lot of them are about family. So she writes about her parents and her brother. There's a beautiful poem in here about her old teacher from when she was at school. And actually there's a video on YouTube of her reading this, so I'm going to link that down below in the description box, so do check it out, because she's a performance poet as well, should have said that, and her performances are just stunning. I'm hopefully going to see her in July in London, so I'm really looking forward to that. But I'll link down below the performance of her reading this poem called Mrs. Ribeiro. It's just lovely. Oh, I wrote in my book, look, I love this. So very much enjoying this poetry collection at the moment. It's all broken down into sections, and each section, it's very cute, has little pictures for each one, which pertain to all of the poems in that section. Yeah, just really loving it at the moment. Beautiful, beautiful poems. Lastly, I'm reading The Heart's Invisible Furies by John Boyne. This is a big beast, so I'm only 100 pages into it at the moment, but again, I'm really liking this. This is the tale of Cyril, who is a young boy that was adopted because his mother was 16 when she was pregnant with him, and this is set in Ireland, so you can't be 16 unmarried and pregnant. So she gives the baby to a nun, and then the baby's adopted. So the first part of this story is written from the perspective of his mother, but it's told by him, so he is the narrator looking back on his mother's pregnancy, which is a bit odd, but it's so clever. It's so clever, and the writing is just, it's beautiful, and it swings between being really funny and just heartbreaking, because obviously the stuff that his mother goes through, like when her family find out she's pregnant, she's kicked out of her house, she's denounced by the priest as being a whore, all of that nonsense that you get in Ireland in the 1950s when this is set. Has much changed? Well, so yeah, it's heartbreaking, but the writing is just sometimes it's just so funny. I'm now moved on to Cyril's story as a little boy. So I think he's about 7 where I'm up to now, and he's talking about his adoptive parents and how strange and kooky they are, and his life with them, which seems very odd because they don't tend to look after him. And I almost didn't want to move on to that part because I was enjoying the story about his mother so much that when it did move on, I was like, but I want to stay with Catherine. I want to know what happens to her. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this pans out. Obviously, it's a big old beast, like 700 pages. So I'm assuming she comes back into it somewhere. So really looking forward to cracking on with this, but definitely enjoying it so far. So those are the books that I am reading at the moment. I'm going to finish Circe today because I've only got 300. I've only got 30 pages left of that. And then I am going to start reading The Heavens by Sandra Newman because I was very kindly sent that by the publisher. So I'll be moving on to that next. Have you read any of these books? Do you plan on reading any of these books? Talk to me in the comments below, particularly on the poetry. I want some feedback on what you think about Sarah Kay's poetry because it's the first time I've read any as well. So yeah, let me know what you're reading at the moment or what you're planning on reading, and I will see you all in my next video.